So focus on LinkedIn, TikTok, the website. Get that done.
Yo, can we get this ad going?
Oh, yeah, my bad. What's up, guys? It's Javier from Hexx Design. So I just want to come on here and let you guys know, September 21st, we are launching our ad. We will be offering 15% off, so be on the lookout for that. Let us know if you get something in the mail, and make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and enjoy this podcast, man. We have a really special guest.
Hey, who approved 15% though?
Michelle's wearing a...
Man, that's the marketing department. That's Pablo and Blanca, so... I'm just reading the script.
I just shoot the bro.
But check us out, like, comment, subscribe, and I hope you guys enjoy this episode.
So Jose is running late, but I was telling Hexx that's actually kind of funny that he's running late because like
We're usually the ones.
no, it's because he said he told you that he's helping someone out.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's just like who Jose is. He just he's a man for the people. He's just helping people out.
Great point.
The people's champ.
Yeah.
Hello, and
Yes,
welcome to another episode of Hex Design.
Oh.
What the heck? Hey, they didn't believe in us.
God did.
Jose did.
Jose did.
Jose did.
Jose believed in us.
Yeah.
We believe in Jose. It is
Yeah.
This is episode 9 of What the Hexx, and we're bringing on a very special guest. He's about to get mic'd up right now.
Yep.
He's a little late, but we're not mad because we're always late.
Yep.
And like we said, he was late for a good reason. He was helping someone out,
And that's who that man is.
and that's who he is.
They didn't believe in us.
Jose did.
Jose did.
So he's gonna get mic'd up, and
And we'll get rolling.
we'll get rolling. You have to test it, or we good?
Test.
What do you want me to
Just
say?
talk
¿Qué
normal.
quieres que
We
diga?
gotta start with the amor.
We're gonna schedule you for karaoke next
Yeah.
Friday.
What
Don't forget.
music do you listen to? Do you listen to cumbia
I-
or bandas or just
Tejano
English?
music. I
Tejano?
listen to Tejano music.
Spanish, English?
Ramon Ayala,
Ayala, or-
Jaime de Anda y los Chamacos. A lot of accordion music.
Okay. Yeah.
Accordion music.
Los Invasores.
That's a little more norteño, but yes. My favorite though is Ramon Ayala.
Ramon Ayala. Okay. Awesome. So guys, today we have on Jose. Jose, thank you so much for coming on, and
Thanks for inviting.
Awesome. We've been with Jose, working with Jose for what, a couple years now?
Yeah, it's been
A year and a half or so?
a year and a half or so. Probably more.
Probably more.
Yeah.
Probably like 2 years.
COVID. That's when
Yeah.
we started business, so everybody was a little bit of, separation.
Right.
Working from home, so we didn't get a lot of interaction. But Jose is the executive director of Voces.
Yeah, so just tell us a little bit about who you are, your organization,
Okay.
and what you do there.
So, y'all's neighbor, I'm neighbor down the road, Jose Orosco. I'm the executive director of Voces. And as far as our organization, we're a nonprofit LatinX serving organization here in Battle Creek. Our mission is to provide opportunities and resources, in short, provide opportunities and resources for the Latinx community in Battle Creek. Part of our vision is seeing how we can involve how we can make sure that the Latinx community becomes part of the Battle Creek community. We don't want to be we want to be part of the community, ranging from school boards, from representation on the police force, in teaching, to social services. I think that's what I've seen missing, and I think part of Voces' work also is to advocate for those kinds of opportunities for our community to be part of.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that. Because
Yeah.
that's, I think, where you are, there is a lack of representation in our community. And I don't think there's like any real reason for that. It just is what it is. But it's good to see that there's organizations and other small businesses that are, trying to lift that up for sure.
Yeah, I think a huge part has been isolation, right? Because we're often seen as outsiders, and we don't feel comfortable in the community. And this is great that we're doing this work, because if we want to integrate ourselves and be a part of something, it takes a whole community to come out and support and not be scared.
Right.
I think that's one of the main things, because if we're not representing ourselves on these boards, in government, like it's
Yeah.
never gonna change.
Exactly.
And you're right. It's not to be scared, and it's not easy. Just yesterday, as a matter of fact, I was at a Michigan Works board meeting. I joined that board to see how we could also benefit from some of those resources that Michigan Works brings to the table. And myself and my intern, Voces' intern, I want to say we were the only ones in that meeting of color. And to be able to hear a presentation, and they're talking about how DEI is important to them. The presentation was coming from one of the career centers there in Kalamazoo, and they were talking about DEI being important for them, and how they want to make it more accessible to the kids, and how they're trying to set up for them to go to college. And I had to raise my hand and say, you know, yes, thank you for lifting that up, but also representation. We need teachers that look like us in your buildings. We also need you to come to our community centers and visit with our families, because they tend to go to the schools, but the schools need help. And I think, so your original question was to talk about me, and that's where I struggle, because I'm not a braggart. I don't like to really showcase and brag about me, because that's what it feels like. But I recognize that it's important to be a role model and take that on. Like that's part of the job, and it's something that I have to be comfortable with. So back to that meeting, I had to raise my hand and be okay with being uncomfortable, because it isn't easy having to be the one constantly raising my hand and saying, hey, what about us? Don't forget about maybe making sure that things are translated. What I do like to see that's happening right now, and I'm part of another group, and what's exciting is whenever folks from other communities start calling some of this stuff out. They start saying, don't forget to get the stuff translated, or do we need interpreters at that next community event that we're going to be putting on? So it's not just Jose reminding people that this is important. Now the community is going to start seeing why it's important, and I think that reciprocity is awesome, because it shows inclusiveness on both sides. For us trying to be part of the bigger group, and the bigger group saying, yes, we welcome you, and we want to make sure that you guys feel comfortable. So it's important. It's a relationship that needs to be fostered, but also as long as both sides are being genuine about what we're working towards, you're going to start seeing some really positive stuff. And it's kind of like even us working together here. I think we have gotten to a point to where we know we can help each other. We know how we can support each other, and that excites me, because it's no longer just Jose or Voces is there in the front. No, you know what? We got partners. We got business partners. We got business owners that we're realizing when we come together, our voice is heard. Our voice is heard, because we all got a voice. It's just sometimes getting heard. So, and you want to know about me? That's where it gets a little. That's where it gets a little.
Well, see, and that's what I was gonna say. It's interesting that you say you were in this board and there was a couple people of color, but you rose your hand to say, "Hey, what about us?" Because you've only been here for a few years in the area, so it makes me wonder. Wow, like if you've only been here for a short period of time, and if you're not like at these meetings raising your hand, like who will be for us? So, kind of to transition into that, you've only been in the area for a short period of time, and you can say as much as you're comfortable with, but where were you at before you were here, and what were you doing? Just a little bit of your story, a little bit of your background. You can go as early as you want, from childhood or teen, whatever makes sense for you. Feel free to just let us know, where you started.
Even before Michigan.
So
you say you're Tejano.
That's where I'm from. I'm a proud Texican. I'm a proud Texican because I am. My mom was born in Matamoros, Mexico, and my dad was born in Harlingen, Texas. So that's why I say I'm Texican. Originally, I'm from San Perlita, Texas. Population about 600. 600. Wow. If you were to Google poorest school district in the United States, San Perlita, Texas is going to come out. and I'm not saying that to highlight it because it's something I need to own. It's where I'm from, and to be able to be here talking to you guys makes me feel good, because I can talk about being young and helping my grandma with the chivos, milking the chivas and all that, because we were gonna boil it after and have that Kix cereal. That's where I'm coming from. Like, coming from the rancho, coming from that small town mentality, and then being able to talk to where I am today is a long journey. But in a nutshell, I think it's important to understand that journey, because not everybody's journey is identical, and mine, I wouldn't say it's anything special, but it is mine, and
It's what makes you you. Yeah.
right. It's what makes me me, and I think owning where I'm from, San Perlita, knowing that a lot of times means I'm gonna have that small town mentality. So as a kid, I knew I needed to get out. I didn't know what that looked like, but I knew I needed to get out. Not because I grew up saying, I hate this place, I want to leave and never come back. I just knew in order for me to grow, I was going to have to get out and see the world some more.
Yeah.
As a young individual, I recognize the importance of being a risk taker. And sometimes you don't know how it's going to turn out. I remember changing high schools. Even though I went to San Perlita, I went to another high school that was about an hour and 15 minutes from where I lived, because I knew the importance of education. My dad dropped out of 10th grade, and my mom dropped out of 6th grade. He would tell me all the time, get your education, because no matter what, nobody can take it away from you. Mm-hmm. I didn't really understand what that meant when I was young. Now that I'm older, I get it. So when it was time to go to high school, I chose to go to a magnet school, which was further away, and I didn't have any friends. I knew I was leaving everybody behind, and I went for it. And it was what I needed. I needed to be challenged academically. My freshman year, I was still growing. I was 14, and I decided to go and go to that other high school. My friends that I thought were my friends probably didn't think I was going to be successful going to that high school, but I knew internally I needed to do it for me. Yeah. I went to that school. I ended up actually coming back my freshman year to San Perlita, because I wanted to be back with my friends, my buddies. I wanted to hang out. I was back with my buddies and went back to some old habits. And it got to the point to where the superintendent called in my dad and said, and I overheard, because I was in the hallway listening to all this stuff, and I overheard the superintendent say, we're going to have to expel him again. I had already been expelled once for a semester for some other stuff. Again, again, right? So my dad said, hang on, let me try something first. And the superintendent said, okay. I overheard my dad talking to my uncle that evening. I got sent to Mississippi. I got sent to Mississippi my freshman year in high school, and that was a growing up experience for me. I got put on a Greyhound bus at the age of 14, rode 34 hours to Mississippi all by myself, and I quickly was forced to grow up. It was a consequence of my actions. I get it. I went, lived with my uncle, and my uncle received me with open arms. My uncle provided to me what awesome. I most needed at that moment. He provided love, and he wasn't scared to show it or tell me. And I think that's what I needed most at that time in life. I ended up going back to the high school. I experienced Mississippi. I experienced being the only Latino in the high school. I remember my first day there at lunchtime. It was still divided. Half of that lunchroom was African American. The other half was white. Where do I sit? It was an experience. It quickly forced me to grow up.
Yeah, I was about to ask, how did you feel mentally in that moment, or was that like tough for you, or were you kind of ignorant and just like, oh, I'll just whatever, or could you tell like, oh wow, this is a real difference? Like,
yeah, it was a real. I was scared. I was scared, but it was a result of my actions.
Yeah.
Which kind of brings me back to the very beginning. being scared in those meetings.
Yeah.
It's a little bit timid. It's a little bit scary.
Yeah, it can be,
but you gotta be willing to raise your hand. And I think back to some of those experiences I had early on in life. Had I not have felt that and took a risk by raising my hand, maybe I wouldn't be here today. Maybe I wouldn't be able to raise my hand in these other meetings.
Right.
But it's all those kinds of experiences that got me here today. And I think back to the high school one. That was an experience. I went back to South Texas. I ended up graduating from there. Senior year comes around. Oh man, this is gonna be a lot. Senior year comes around, and I had a really awesome high school counselor. Awesome counselor. She sits me down senior year and says, you need to slow down. You need to slow down, and you need to go to college in Indiana. What do you mean Indiana? She knew I had already visited and all that. They had. That's another story, but Indiana sent me a ticket to come and visit Wabash College in Indiana. I had never been to Indiana. I had never been on a plane. So whenever they called me and said, do you want to come and visit Wabash College? I said, yeah, great. I do want to, but my parents don't have any money. Like, I can't go. No, we'll send you a ticket. Okay, so in my head, I'm thinking, I'm not going to go to an all-male college in Indiana. But I want to go. I want to go feel what it feels like to be on a plane. And coming where I was coming from, this was an opportunity for me to experience that. So I went for it, took the risk. I went for it and visited Wabash College, Indiana. It was awesome. I can't say enough how important that experience was in my life. As a matter of fact, just yesterday I was talking to one of my fraternity brothers last night. And we were talking about just recalling some old stories. When I went to college, remember I'm coming from the little pueblito of San Pedrolita, and when I went to college, they said, "Do you want to join this fraternity?" What is that? What does that mean? I didn't know what it was. They said, "Oh, you get to hang out with us. You get to hang out with us." Yeah, this has been pretty fun. I like it. So I did it. I joined a fraternity. There was about 70 guys living in one house. And it was big. It was a big old frat house, and I could easily have gotten lost in that world. For transparency, we had beer on tap 24 hours a day. You could have beer for breakfast, you could have it for dinner. That was up to you. But that was the freedom and responsibility that college brought to me at that time. What was I gonna do with that? Was I gonna take care of business, or was I gonna go and party and have it all? I knew that my parents had taught me better, so I knew I had to take care of business. Yeah, I could have a little bit of fun, but I had to take care of business. And I did that. I built lifelong friendships. Graduated from Indiana, went back to South Texas, and I graduated with a liberal arts degree. Nobody told me it was going to be hard to find a job with a liberal arts degree. Nobody told me, be careful when you take out all those loans. Those are the pieces that kind of influence my work today. I know how important it is to talk to high school kiddos and mom and dad to make sure that they're all part of that relationship. They're all part of that conversation around college and how it could look in the end. How maybe doesn't necessarily have to be college. Maybe it could be a technical or a job, because I think that's important to making sure that everybody has a plan after graduation. So I went back to South Texas. I ended up teaching. I taught 4th and 5th grade students for about 3 or 4 years, and it was an experience for me professionally that I needed to know and understand that I really enjoyed giving back. I liked working with kids. I liked working with families, and knowing that I was helping people in the way that I wish I would have gotten some assistance, in the way that I wish my mom and dad would have maybe gotten some guidance. So I came in as a teacher, and I ended up starting also my master's in counseling at that time after hours. And there's some pieces that I'm skipping here that are very important. I got married at the age of 20. So my senior year back in Indiana, my wife and my oldest daughter ended up moving up there with me. It was tough. It was tough leaving those fraternity parties behind, because now it was time to become a dad like that. Yeah. That was a result of my action. I don't think it was it just made me who I was. And so when I get back to Texas, now I've got a 1-year-old. My wife wants to go to college too, because she missed out going to Purdue because of our daughter. She had already gotten her room reserved. She had already met her dorm mate and all that, but life happened and she wasn't able to go to Purdue. So we went back to South Texas. My wife wanted to go back into college as well. I still remember my first couple of years as a teacher meeting my wife in the parking lot at the local university there, UTRGV, and doing a handoff. I would take my daughter. My wife would go to class, and I would go home and raise my kiddo. It wasn't easy, but it was part of the journey. I ended up teaching for about 5 years. I taught in the prison system for a little while down there in South Texas. I became a high school counselor in South Texas. Eventually, I ended up becoming an assistant principal in a neighboring school district, and I had a really nice setup. By then, I already had my 3 kiddos. I was able to take my kids with me to work, and my wife was teaching in the neighboring school district. She was teaching art and Spanish, and then all of a sudden, she messes it all up in a good way. She says, I want to go back to school. I want to go back to college. And I'm thinking of becoming a lawyer. Okay, well then let's do it. Let's pursue it. Because I knew how much she had sacrificed for my education. So it only made sense for me to pay it back. She took the LSAT and we ended up realizing we were going to have to move. The nearest law school down there to South Texas was going to be in either Houston or San Antonio. So we were going to have to move. And we always wanted to live somewhere where there was going to be seasons. We didn't realize there was going to be so much snow, but we said, okay, let's give it a shot. And something came in the mail. She filled it out, and she ended up getting accepted to Cooley Law School here in Michigan. So that one, and there was another one in Texas. But we said, you know what? We want to go where there's seasons. We want something different. Let's go. Loaded up the 24-foot Penske truck. So I had the 24-foot Penske truck. My little one, who was 2 or 3, because nobody wanted to ride with her, so it was just she and I in the big old troque. And then behind me was my wife, my son, and my daughter, and the dog. And we left Texas 10 years ago.
Wow.
And we went for it. So coming down the big old troque to Chicago and all that stuff, not knowing, we ended up in Grand Rapids, Michigan. I ended up in Rockford, Michigan. I didn't know where I was moving to. So I called ahead of time, and I think I asked too many questions, because the local school district up there said, sir, if you're looking for a competitive school district, you might want to look elsewhere. So I said, holy smoke, where are we moving to? So I said, I know how this works. Let me look for the right zip code with those test scores, and that's where I'm going to move to. What I didn't pay attention to was the demographics. I think that was a missed part for me, but it's part of me being where I'm at today. Rockford was a really cool town. The academics, the school system, all that was what my kids needed. So I'm not gonna, that part was awesome. The community as a whole might need some more help in being more inclusive to the diverse communities that are moving there, but that was my welcome to Michigan. That was my learning quickly that Michigan was still a little behind in understanding the importance of the diversity coming into the state. I know what it feels like to have a Latino principal, a Latino sheriff, a Latino mayor, teacher, all that stuff since kindergarten. I know what it could look like. So when I moved up to Michigan and started seeing some of those challenges that were in existence, I was thinking, well, where did I move to? Like, I just left where I didn't feel any of this. And I know that this is going to go out there on Facebook and all that, and I'm excited about it because in talking, the ones that I'm hoping see this also is some of my families and some of the community in South Texas. Not knocking South Texas, because it provided me where I'm from, and I own it, to where I still have things up in my office and all that in reference to Texas, because that's where I'm from. But I do encourage a lot of folks to get out of the valley, is what we call it, the 5 counties in South Texas, Rio Grande Valley. Get out and experience the rest of the U.S. Sometimes it's positive, sometimes it's negative, but I think in experiencing all those different pieces, it'll make a person stronger and more understanding of what could be, and also whether it's positive or negative. So back to Michigan, when I got here, I came in and I got hired on as a school counselor. It was at Godwin Heights High School. It was a school district that was probably about 40% Latino, 40% African American, and then 20% Caucasian. So for me, it felt good. That building felt good. And at lunchtime, and I go back to lunchtime because later on in a couple of jobs, I was able to compare different school districts at lunchtime. And I use lunchtime as an indicator of where schools are culturally. What do I mean by that? If at lunchtime, it's still segregated. You have your Latinos in one area, your African Americans, and your whites on another one, then I don't feel that school district is doing a good job of
Bringing it all together.
You're right, of bringing the kids together, bringing the community together. At Godwin Heights High School, that's what I loved. At lunchtime, you would see kids thrown all over the hallways, black, brown, white. It didn't, except for the basketball team. The basketball team was different. They had their own group, but in Godwin, basketball it's different in a good way. In a good way. Yeah. But that feeling of this doesn't matter. You could feel that in that school district. I got to see about 9 different school districts across Kent County at lunchtime. I would intentionally go at lunchtime so that I could see and feel what that vibe was like. And there was not any other school district in Kent County that could show me what Godwin Heights showed me. And not just because I worked there, but that's what I saw. Like that was real. I was able to go, and it's sad to see some of these other big school districts that brag about how many different languages are spoken there and their diversity and this and that. Well, the numbers say one thing, but when you go in there and you talk to the people, that's a different story. That's important to kind of keep in mind. And then me professionally, so as I evolved and grew and learned Michigan and all that, one of probably my toughest things to accept was when I decided to become a leader, when I decided to go back to becoming a principal or a leader in some sort. I felt like I was ready to go back to becoming an assistant principal or principal. So I started putting applications out there.
Real quick, was there a specific moment that you realized that, when you were up there, that you're like, you know what, I think I'm ready to be a leader again? Was there a specific moment
That's a good question.
where you were in Kent County that you're like, you know what, I think it's time?
Yeah, there was a specific moment, and it was when I was in a job that I felt my voice wasn't being heard. I felt the only way then it's going to be heard is if I'm in charge.
Right.
And then I'm going to make sure that everybody else's voices that I represent are heard.
Yeah.
Whether it was a building principal in reference to the students, because I didn't know that this was coming. I felt like I was going to go back into the school system. That was the moment when I said, me as a Latino in Michigan, I don't feel like my voice is being heard. So I want to lead. Yeah. And that's when I decided to come back be a leader. And I put my applications out there, and I would make it and I would make it to final round interviews in different school districts. I made it probably to about 5 or 6 different last round interviews between me and another candidate. I didn't get hired. I wasn't getting hired. And every time it was just like, man, what's wrong with me? What am I missing? Yeah. Finally, I said, you know what? Let me see who they are hiring. Let me see what I'm missing so that I can go back and get it, whether it's a credential or a license or something. Right. Let me see what I'm missing so I can go back and get it.
That's very important too, because when we go back to the youth and schools and nobody being there that looks like you, like what motivation do you have, or who with that experience can you go to try to get some of that knowledge?
Right.
It's a very good point that touching on that.
So I started looking at who they're hiring, right? And I'm looking at the profiles of the different individuals, and then I said, oh man, I'm never gonna get hired. What they all had in common is they were all white, and quickly then I said, Michigan's not ready for me. That's the way I felt it internally. Michigan's not ready for me. It hurt. It hurt to see that and experience that. So then I stepped back and reflected and said, okay, then where can I make an impact? Where can I make a difference so that my kids, our kids, don't have to experience and feel what I felt with that?
Yep.
Voces' job, it came out on Indeed, or I don't know how it came across my computer, and I was reluctant, and my wife said, just do it. My wife said, go for it.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's all her fault again that I'm here. So I applied, and I went for it, and got it, and
Now you're here.
and even coming here, like I got hired. 3 weeks later, COVID hit, closed the doors, and in our world, you guys understand this one. It's all about relationships. It's all about relationships. That's what you hear. So now I'm new to Battle Creek, new to the job. I hadn't been an executive director before. I've been a building leader, but not like that, in charge of the organization. So it was hard. At first, it was hard having to meet people on the computer, on the phone. That was it. That's all I had. I couldn't. Individuals in the city. The city as a whole, the city government, the city officials, the employees there have been very welcoming. I'm not gonna
I'm gonna stop you right there. It cut out, so I don't know.
We can just keep going and then clip it back in.
Is it still recording though?
No, it's recording. Okay, cool.
So as far as the welcoming and the officials from the city, I imagine part of it is that welcoming was part of being the executive director at Voces. Like I get that. So then how do I own that, but also make sure that the community members that are coming new to our community feel that same sentiment of belonging like the way I did? Because I really do feel like Battle Creek never closed the door on me. It was more like they opened the door and said, welcome, let's hear you. And as we started learning each other, we started engaging in some really, really authentic conversations. Because one of the things that I learned in moving to Michigan was West Michigan nice. I don't know if you guys have Googled that one, but that one was a learning for me. And as I looked it up, what does it stand for? Not inclined to critically examine. I think I have felt that on the flip side in Battle Creek. People are inclined to critically examine and have tough conversations. Excuse me. I appreciate that. I'd rather know who I'm talking to than later on find out that's not really who I was talking to. You're another person. You were just showing me being fake.
Yeah, you just,
I want to be real. I want to be real, and I appreciate that. That brings us till today. In being able to work at Voces, I look at the mission and vision, and I'm thinking like, wait a minute, did somebody take that off of my resume and put that on the mission and vision? Because I look at what it stands for and what we're trying to do there as far as our community, it excites me. It's a lot of work. It's heavy, but I look forward to coming to work every day.
Yeah.
The team that I've been able to put in place. I can't stop speaking enough about them, because I wouldn't be where I'm at today. I wouldn't have the successes we've got going on today at Voces without the team.
Yeah.
And I recognize that it's not perfect, but continuous improvement. I'm all about continuous improvement. And
yeah, because Voces has been around for how long now?
It's 10th year.
10th year, and a lot of people don't even know that. Like, I initially, when I heard of Voces, I was still high school, I think. Junior year of high school, about to get out. And yeah, it got started. my mom attended a lot of stuff like ESL and all of that, but after a while, it kind of just went silent. Changes of leadership,
Yeah.
and nothing that they did wrong. It's just maybe discouragement, maybe not finding the correct way to get in touch with the community. And I think that's one thing that Jose brings, is that he has a way to be able to network with everybody and have that simple conversation. It doesn't always have to be about business.
Yeah.
Jose will talk literally about anything and relate with you, and he, like he's saying, it's real, it's not fake, it's not him trying to get something from you, and that's what makes the connections genuine. And I think that's what has helped Voces a lot, is bringing that piece into it.
Well,
Right.
thank you,
And,
Hexx.
and you can see it in your story, right? You can see the patterns in your
Yeah.
story. Like, you've constantly have faced like these problems and have been able to like overcome them, right? So I feel like a lot of what he's saying, the way you're able to connect with people, because like everyone deals with problems, you know, and you
Yeah.
understand what it is to, you know, maybe feel like this, but be able to overcome that, you know, and
Yeah.
you know, we all go through stuff, and I feel like that's why you're also able to really connect with people and understand these issues.
Yeah.
Plus,
and-
you always have a smile on your face.
Yeah, I mean,
You're always super positive. Like,
Yeah.
I did not know this much of your story, you know. I would have never guessed, you know.
Yeah.
So it's really cool that you have the opportunity to tell it.
Well, I'm
But,
glad you guys
yeah.
let me.
no, because it relates to the community, especially now that we're getting to, well, people my age. I'm a young father. Same thing. I got married when I was 21. I have a kid. She's 4. Deciding where she's gonna go to preschool, walking in the classrooms, and there's nobody else that looks like her, and it's like, man, like this place has the award for academic excellence in
Right.
2022, but it's not the piece that I need her to have is not there.
Yeah.
And how are you going to bring that and give that to my child? So it's now another vision or a mission that I have to do to make sure that she still knows her roots, that
Yeah.
she still knows that her culture matters, and it's very important to me. And I went to the public schools here in Battle Creek, and hearing, oh, I'm not sending my kid there, like this and that, but I'm like, I got to experience since I was 7 when I moved from Mexico, having multiracial friends,
Yeah.
and we were all the same. We all went to a poor school, post elementary. Now it's closed, but everybody looked the same. We all, I'm not even speaking English. They welcomed me. I played with them in recess. I made good friends with everybody, and I feel like that's getting lost with people looking for excellence, and you're trying to take your child out of a bad situation, like you're saying. We
Yeah.
all want to do that. But are we losing culture? Are we losing something that they need to learn, that everybody's the same and we can all come together?
Yeah, that's a tough one, Hexx, because so I view Battle Creek as a little microcosm of the U.S.
Yeah.
We've got a large Burmese community, we've got a large African American community, Latino community. If we do the percentages and all that, I think we're reflective, close to the U.S. And some of the initiatives that we're working on here, like building community, our planning for some of the events, if we can't do some of those things good or be successful with them, then we're in trouble, because this town isn't that big. If we can't figure it out in little old Battle Creek, we're in trouble. But I'm very optimistic in this, because some of the events that we've already had, some of the projects that we've already worked on, it wasn't just Latinos. I think about some of the parties that Javier's had at Torti, knowing how diverse that crowd was, knowing our Cinco de Mayo party that we had downtown Battle Creek, knowing how diverse that one was, the Color of the Creek, and how intentionally they go all over town and try to bring in the community. Knowing how our city commissioners has changed. It's changing, it's evolving. It excites me. It excites me that we're moving in a positive direction. And these kinds of conversations, we probably need to have them more and more, and put them on the table. Understand that sometimes we have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. Like I was. Like the same way we often are put in that position. It's okay to flip that script sometimes and wrestle with it. And what excites me is that you've got people like Rebecca Fleury, the city manager, you got Ted, you got John Hart there in the city, who are willing to sit down and wrestle with these conversations and that excites me. The chief of police, Chief Blocker. No, none of us are perfect. None of us are perfect. We're all on our own journey. But as long as we're pulling in the same direction and we're authentic in what we're doing, I think we truly can see some change. And and I really do feel it can and it is happening here in the city of Battle Creek.
And we want to be part of that mission too, and
Yeah.
that's why we're here. That's why we're neighbors too.
Yes, right.
Because the last video, if you guys haven't heard it, check that out. We wanted to follow that up with Jose because
We thought it'd be perfect.
to continue that kind
That
of
awareness, that mission, to
And
spread that
for me,
mission.
Hexx, I was talking to Clarissa, right? And one of Voces is she's the community connections program manager, and she's on the younger side, and I'm on the older side. And I was thinking, like, y'all have a cool program. What the heck's like the name? It's catchy. You guys are youthful, and you don't want this old man on your program. But I get it, and
we can touch back on that because we need to, because early on I learned that you already experienced this and you have all this experience. Why am I going to take 20 years to try to gain it when you can sit down and tell me, look, this is what I saw, this was my experience, take this and do better, and we continue it on and build upon that. Like, that's why we need this.
Man.
It's a combination of that.
Yeah.
Because it's seeing my parents, and same thing. You come from a small city and you're accustomed to things, and even though I'm Mexican, sometimes I feel like I can't even connect with my community because I'm not from the same part that they are. And it's like, dude, like I'm not taking anything away from you. I just want to learn, and same thing. Experience heritage and culture. Teach me about your town. I'll teach you about mine. Like, don't be scared of that. And nobody's trying to change anything for you. Nobody's saying anything that they're better. We have to get past that.
That's why I get excited about things that like we're working on. Like one of the big ones that we're working on is the preschool. If all goes well, fingers crossed, we're gonna have a bilingual preschool here in Battle Creek. And one of the pieces that's gonna be important is the culture. The culture is going to be at the center of it all. We gotta not forget where we come from, and make sure that we teach the future that part. And part of that's going to be bringing in a milpa, a garden with maize, and paying our respects to all that. Exactly how it's going to look, we're in the works. But it excites me because then we're going to leave this place a little better than we found it, and our investment is our kids. It's our youth.
They're the next ones that are going to be here, and it's really awesome that we can say that. Like, we're working towards that, because the whole culture thing, like, in my head, I've always seen it like people think that, okay, you have a new ethnicity coming in, they're trying to change the town. No, it's not that. We want to just have our culture and experience some of the stuff and bring some of our heritage to make this better. We're not trying to steal anything away. We're not trying to change anything. Like just experience it. Be open to experiences.
And that's what excites me, knowing that we're working with the community that is willing to engage and learn. Like I recognize maybe I might say something I shouldn't have said appropriately in another culture, but if I own it and I apologize for it and grow from it and take it as a learning experience, then that was a success. I look at some of the events that we've put on here in the past couple years since I've been here, and in some of them I set them up intentionally. And one of the ones that comes to mind is our Hispanic Heritage Festival last year. We were making mole at the Burma Center with about 5 or 6 different senoras, and Chris Sargent, the CEO of the United Way, said he showed up to volunteer. He said, "So what do I do?" I said, "Well, we need help serving." So he said, "Okay, I'm here. Put me to work." The senoras brought him into the kitchen, and he was back there mixing mole. You got big old tall Chris Sargent mixing mole with 5 or 6 Latina senoras. It was awesome. It was awesome seeing him engage and talk and share around food, and him willing to be vulnerable. Like, I imagine it was uncomfortable for him to be there in that room, but it's those kinds of leaders and to an extent, role models in this community that get me excited
Yeah.
that we're not alone.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we need to be uncomfortable. If you're
Yeah.
not uncomfortable, you're not growing.
That's true.
But yeah, it definitely takes people's willingness to
Yeah.
want to.
And you're definitely one of those people in this city and well, in this world, you know. So definitely need more people like you.
Yeah, I mean,
Thank you.
yeah, you definitely just being around you has definitely helped me be able to bring out a little bit of that and be like, man, I want to do that too, because this is what I went through.
An inspiration. Yeah.
And yeah,
And vice versa, Hex. Like I told you guys, like it's been cool to see you guys on y'all's journey and see how it's come. You referenced the coming out of the base. I visited the basement.
Yeah,
I'm
you
glad
did,
I
you
was
did.
able to at least see that.
Yeah,
I was
you saw
able to
the
see
basement.
that, and to see where you're at today, it just makes me work even harder because it excites me. If you guys can do it, and then I go talk to Javier, and Javier's got business after business opening up, and he's talking about these ideas of what's coming next.
Yeah.
I said, I can't slow down. It just gives me more fuel.
yeah, and we come together. That's
Yeah.
the thing,
Yeah.
is being able to talk to people like that. There's people that started businesses
Hell yeah.
when we were in the basement, and they were in their home too, and now seeing to where they're at. And
Yeah, it's awesome.
Speaking like about La Loma,
Yeah.
because we connected through Voces, and he reached out on Facebook like, hey, I heard you guys are doing logos, help us out, and
Yeah.
from there, and now see where La Loma is at.
Yeah.
You
yeah.
see them all over
Yeah.
the city, and that's big for me because we're growing together.
That's
We're
true.
helping each other up, and I think a lot of what our work has to be is to make sure that we are allowing ourselves to bring more people into this and to let them know that, hey, we're not trying to take anything away from you. Ideas are endless. I'm crazy. I have ideas all day, but that's the thing about our culture is like you have to. How do we get them to open up and be like, hey, it's okay, bring your voice. Like, I went through this.
Right.
You went through this.
It's okay to
Let's
raise
all
your
make it
hand.
better,
sometimes.
yeah.
You bring up La Loma, and the quick story, and I think it connects with this because in our culture, oftentimes we tend to sometimes pull each other down. And what I've experienced though in Battle Creek, for the most part within the Latino community, is support of each other.
Yeah.
I think a partner, or like a community partner, like Jose Luis from La Loma, is authentic. I was trying to change between trash carriers, or whatever they call them, the people that pick up the trash, and in doing that, it fell behind. So we had some stinky trash bags in the back office, and I still hadn't figured out the contract. And the staff's like, "Hey, it smells," and and people aren't coming in. So I'm thinking like, "Oh my gosh, where am I going to get rid of all this trash?" Called Jose Luis. I said, "Jose Luis, can you help me out? Yeah, I'll send you the crew and just throw the stuff in the trailer. Thank you."
Yeah.
That small, it's not small, it was huge for me.
Yeah.
I got a quick win with my staff. Everybody was happy, but it was him coming in a time of need that helped me out so much, demonstrating that we're not alone. We can lean on each other, and his ego isn't to the point to where, hey, I'm Jose Luis. I'm not gonna help you. I'm over here making these big old buildings and all. I ain't got time for you. That's an authentic, I think, relationship, and with partners like that and support like that, we're only gonna get stronger in a positive way. Because to sit here and say, well, let's change Battle Creek. No, I'm all about transforming and becoming part of, and recognizing that things are going to look different, but that doesn't necessarily, that's positive.
Yeah.
It
doesn't
is
mean
positive.
for the worst. It doesn't, like,
Right.
I remember I took a job once out of Battle Creek, actually in Marshall. I worked at the bank, and I listened to Spanish music. I listened to my corridos. I like to, bump. I'll get to the stoplights, and if I had my windows down in the summertime or anything, like, I would lower the volume. I'm like, man, they probably don't want to be hearing what I'm listening to.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that I'm completely cranking it, but it's just like, no, I should embrace that I can listen to my music and enjoy myself.
That's who you are, yep.
It's who I am. And I'm sitting here changing myself because I don't feel comfortable, or I don't want to be looked at. I mean, for lack of better terms, like, F that.
Yeah.
I'm here, I'm part of the community. Like,
Right.
And I think a lot of, so that's important, and to continue to push some of those safe spaces, or we build that culture. As leaders, we're able to build that culture. Like at Voces, for example, I tell the staff all the time, you speak Spanish or English or Burmese or Japanese, whatever you feel comfortable speaking here, that's what you speak. And if you want to practice your Spanish or English more, like I'm in there always asking, how do you say this in Spanish? How do you say this in Spanish? Because I want to get it better. I'm not saying my Spanish is bad, but it could get better. And I want people to feel comfortable and understand that nobody's going to make fun of them. In our ESL classes that we've got happening right now, we've got folks from Russia, Japan, Korea, across Mexico, Latin America, and
It's awesome.
It's fun. It's
awesome.
fun. It's fun. It's fun seeing all those different cultures come together. Where I really like it is the end of the year parties, because then everybody brings out their food and you see all these different comidas coming in. I think we're building community in ways that maybe traditionally we haven't highlighted or haven't recognized and appreciated. Our folks now, when we open the doors at Voces, we have people coming in from the different communities. I love it when the Urban League brings over some people from, they just want to, they needed some support with services or something, and they feel comfortable enough to bring in people into our center.
And that's a big part, because community is an ecosystem, right?
Yeah.
If there's new businesses or existing businesses that need people, and you're getting new people that come into Voces looking for a different job, or they have different skills, and you know of a business, for example, us and Voces, it's like, we grant, like, that's how you build community.
And at the same time, also looking out for our community, because probably every other day I get emails around, we're looking for employees. We have 200 openings. Holy smoke, I'm not a temp agency. And I know what they're asking me. I'm not dumb. And that's not authentic. That's not authentic. I think authentic is, let me meet you. Let's have a conversation. Let me learn about you. Let you learn about me. Here locally, Duncan Aviation. They brought us in to go and check out their building, and I was real honest with them, and I said, Nate, this building feels foreign to our community. You got a big old gate fence, and I get it for security and aviation and all that. I know why that's in place. I said, but it doesn't feel like it's a place for us. Like, I don't think we can come and work here. That's the way it feels. Come and visit. So I went and visited it, and we toured it, and he said, Jose, we want to work with the diverse communities. Help us out. It wasn't like, here's my openings, just send them to me and I'm going to put them to work. No, it was like, he shared his story. He talked about how I don't want to share too much about his story, but college, he didn't. You don't have. If you go to Duncan, they will build you up, which is good, because it didn't feel like, well, if I don't have college, I can't work there at Duncan. They're willing to take me on and help build me up. He got to the point to where, that relationship got to the point to where we did a tour the next time, and I said, Nate, I want to do a tour, but I don't want to bring in just the kids. I want to bring in mom and dad. He said, well, what are you thinking? I said, I want to do a tour, and you make half of it for the adults presentation and half of it for the kids. He said, okay, I like the way and man, it was cool, because we got there and his staff came out and everybody's wearing their jumpsuits and there's planes flying out in the back, and that's what we did. The parents and adults heard a different presentation than the kids did. At the end, the kids were able to walk through an airplane and experience. They couldn't fly, the rules and all that stuff, we couldn't fly them, but they could at least sit on an airplane, mess around with the little buttons and all that, and then run around in the airfield afterwards, because I asked Nate for a little space so that we could do our presentation of awards because of the COVID and everything. I didn't have enough space to do that, so I asked him if we could do it there in the hangar, and he said, yes, go for it. that was a partner. That
Yeah.
was somebody that said, you have something, we have something you need. And I think in the long run, maybe as we start building these relationships and we start learning more about the community starts learning more about what we're doing here at Duncan, we could see how we can work. We can see how we can work, hire folks from your community. And I'm happy to say I know of at least 2, if not 3, Latinos that have already gotten hired into Duncan, and they're doing well.
Yeah.
Is it perfect? No, no place is perfect, but they're working towards becoming better.
And I guess that's a good topic too that we can touch on is you have to, if you have a business, you know the meaning of branding, and these companies thinking that people are just here for the money and they're out of here, that's changing.
Yep.
You have to market yourself and make people aware that, okay, this is why this business is here, and this is why we want employees, and this is our culture, and this is how you're gonna feel, and give them a real life look at what employment could be
Yeah.
to be able to get employees. Because I left good opportunities to come and build this, and it was like, why the heck would you do that? And it's like I'm sitting back and I'm like, I'm 26, and a year ago, hell yeah, I would take this job because it's almost double of what I'm making right now. It's at a different location. I was gonna have to go to Sturgis, to your hometown, and then I was like, you know what? It's not about that anymore. I need to build something for me where I can feel comfortable and where I know that my story aligns with everybody.
All right, so we're having some technical difficulties.
Camera
but we're good.
overheated, but that's what we got too.
Yeah.
No.
Well, awesome, Jose. Thank you so much for sharing your story. And like now that it's like the end, we want to ask you just a few questions. You don't have to, nothing too deep. You don't have to, just whatever pops up. They're just a few questions. So honestly, the first one would be, what do you miss about Texas? Is there? That.
What do I miss about Texas? What do I miss about Texas? I would say, apart from my family, the food. The food, the Tex-Mex food down there, but the first part, Javi, it's tough. When you leave your family, it's not easy, because I remember looking around and telling one of my tias specifically, I said, I'm moving to Michigan and I don't think I'm coming back. What? I said, I don't think I'm coming back. I knew we were coming with the mindset for my wife to finish law school, and then we were gonna go back. But life happens, and my kids grew up, and
Home
now they're finding roots and they're finding connections here, and it looks like we're staying in Michigan for a while, and that's okay. But that wasn't my plan, and now whenever some community member or somebody says, hey, come to this party or come to this quinceañera, man, I jump at it. As long as I can make it happen. I jump at it, because I know what that means. When a Latino, and I tell this to the teachers and the principals, and I said, if you guys get an invitation for a quinceañera or a wedding, y'all need to go. Because that is big in our community. That is saying something about what that family thinks about you. Not having any family in Michigan, it's tough. It's tough. So that's probably the biggest thing I miss from Texas.
It's funny because I actually, when I was a little bit younger, I would like dismiss a lot of invitations, or like, oh, it's just a party, or it's just this. But now that I'm getting a little bit older and he's seen it, I'm like, oh, I feel like not that I have to go to this, but if they're inviting me, there's a reason, and they do value that. So, but all right, second question is, we were talking about the youth and the future. What's some advice you have for, I guess, people mid 20-year-olds to the bottom, for just someone younger? What's some advice or if there was something that you would like them to take out of this podcast, what would that be from your story?
Don't be scared to take a risk. Sometimes it's gonna come out negative, but a lot of times it'll come out positive. And a risk in a smart way. I mean, there's temptation, there's things you
A planned risk.
Yeah, there's things are negative and things you probably shouldn't be doing. Whenever you hear your Jiminy Cricket on the side telling you, hey, are you sure you should be doing this? Maybe you need to listen to him. But I think risks in a way that are positive and like you said, Hex, planned, go for it because you never know what you're going to get out of by submitting that 500-word essay. You don't know what they might send you. Fill out that application.
Yeah.
Try that summer internship or job. Sorry if you're not going to get paid as much as the other high school student. Join high school clubs. When you go to college, join a club. I can't say that enough. Join a club. It doesn't matter if it's the chess club, if it's a Spanish club, the computer club. Get involved. If you're not in college, get involved in the community. Come and volunteer. Whether it's in the hospital or in the city, because the more we get involved, I think the more you feel like you belong, and opportunities will present themselves, but you're not going to get those opportunities sitting at home. So you got to get out there and take, I'm not saying don't play video games, because I like that little Xbox a little too, but you got to take care of your business. You got to take care of business.
Talk to people.
My last question is, what's the impact that you want to have in Battle Creek?
Yeah, the impact. I want to leave it a little better than I found it. What does that mean, or what does that look like? Currently, I know of 2 Latinos on boards across the county. One individual is at the Gilbert Ortiz is the Calhoun Area Career Center School Board. And the other individual is Yanni. Yanni's on the board for Grace Health. Outside of those 2 and the Latinos on the Voces board, I don't see us represented anywhere in the community. City commission, foundations boards, we're not there. So that's, I would want to see more representation throughout the city, so that our youth, as they're growing up, can feel like I can do it too. Look at so and so. Look at so and so. And as we start evolving more, we the older crowd need to own that we're role models, whether we want to or not sometimes. So how do we positively position ourselves so that our future can continue making a difference and impacting this community in a positive way? I think I'm a big, well, I'm not big, but my boy was a Boy Scout, and one of the models is or sayings is, leave the place better than how you found it. Whenever you go camping, picking up, that's kind of formed me, and some of those pieces, like I just mentioned Boy Scouts, that's another one. Get involved. If you don't have Boy Scouts, Cub Scouts, or Girl Scouts, or groups in the church, or not in the church, in the community, just get involved.
And if you're Hispanic or Latino, and like, be okay taking your kids places, even if you're uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Even if the kid says, hey, maybe I don't want to do this because there's nobody like me, like, no, try it.
Yeah.
Try it. You might end up liking it. I think that's
big. Oh, that's big. Right. Because then, if they're uncomfortable, and then, the child will be uncomfortable or whatever, but no, for sure. But
and just take those risks.
Yeah, take the risks.
What the heck?
Yeah, what the heck, right? Awesome. Thank you so much, Jose. We could probably talk for days, I'm sure. But I didn't know that much about your story, so I'm glad we were able to kind of get to know each other a little bit better.
Yeah. No, I thank you, and continue to be that role model for some people that you don't even know that you're role modeling for or mentoring. It really does mean a lot, and I mean, we're just super happy to have you as a neighbor.
You're welcome, and anybody that's out there watching, feel free to stop in, have conversations. Have conversations either with myself, my staff, and if we're busy, we might come next door and visit Hexx. So the invite's out there.
Yeah.
Adios, camera.